So good morning, everybody, and thank you for being here at our candidate forums. My name is Lee Henry, and I am the president of the Northeast ISD Council of PTAs. This forum is being recorded and will be shown at a later date on our social media channels and our YouTube channel. PTA's mission is to make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate for all children is in line with the expectations of the school board. Our school board is tasked with ensuring that our children receive the finest comprehensive education in a safe and secure learning environment. We applaud you for stepping up to serve out this mission. The expectation for our audience is to listen respectfully to our moderator and the candidate. No clapping, outbursts, or gestures. We encourage you to take photos and post those on social media using the hashtag PTA votes. And now I'm going to introduce our moderator, Robbie Shepard. Robbie is our advocacy council, and she is also a member of the Texas PTA Advocacy Committee. She is passionate about public education and is committed to supporting strong schools for every student. As an NEISD parent, Robbie has seen her own child flourish thanks to the district's leadership and resources. We're happy to have her here today to moderate the forum for our single-member District 7. And I'll turn it over to Robbie.
Thank you, Lee. I want to start by thanking everyone that's here today. Voting matters, and being educated and informed voter is paramount in every election. So you're all aware, all candidates who officially filed for NEISD School Board Trustee Single-Member District 7 were invited to participate in this forum. And those who indicated they would participate were provided with a list of questions 1 week ahead of time. Today we have with us Garcia. Cheryl was invited but had a prior engagement and was not able to join us today. You will have 2 minutes for an opening statement, 2 minutes to respond to each question, and 2 minutes for your concluding statement. Sarah Patterson here on my right is going to keep us on time today. She'll give you a 1-minute warning with our cards, a 30-second and 15-second warning. So, now that we have all that squared away, the floor is yours for your introduction.
Good morning. My name is Caprice, Garcia, and I am running for NEISD School Board, Single-Member District 7. My husband and I have lived in District 7 for 21 years, and we have 3 children who have graduated from NEISD schools, and our youngest is in the dual language program right now at Bradley Middle School, and she'll be a freshman next year starting at Madison High School. In 2012, after a career in public service, I became a stay-at-home mom, and I quickly realized that my passion to help people did not end when I left my employment, so I started volunteering in our schools. I became involved with the PTAs. I thought I was just going to make copies from time to time, but meeting some very eager PTA parents that got me heavily involved and said, hey, we think you should be president. So I was president there and at Student Ranch and at Madison. I learned a lot about PTA and the advocacy component and gave me an opportunity to learn how to advocate for our parents, for our students, and our staff. I'm currently running for school board to make a positive impact on our schools. Our schools are the heart of our community, and they're very important to the well-being of our whole neighborhood. Every child deserves a quality education, and we want to make sure that educators are supported and that students, regardless of their background, have exactly what they need in a classroom to be successful. And I thank you for inviting me here today.
We're so glad you're here. Let's start with question 1. You've expressed your desire to serve as a trustee for Northeast ISD. How will you ensure your decisions reflect the voices and needs of families, students, and staff across all of NEISD, not just your single-member district, while also prioritizing those in underserved communities that may not always feel heard?
I do understand that as a trustee, we are representing all the schools and all students and the staff. I'm very in tune with reaching out into our community in different aspects, even outside of school, to talk to parents about what's important to them, to talk to our educators about what is important to them as well and what they need to be successful and to provide that education for our children. I am willing to be present as I have been over the years. It's important to show up at those events, to engage in the PTA meetings, to engage in the award programs, at a band concert, a choir performance. Be engaged in every aspect of our district, and that's typically what I've done over the years as a parent, as a volunteer, and as a substitute. And that is the main way that you will get to learn what's important to the constituents of the district. So I really look forward to reaching out across just the area of my District 7, of our area, and learn what other parts of our district face and what they need as well.
Thank you. Given the district's ongoing budget shortfall tied to inadequate state funding, do you support school consolidations, and what criteria would you use to make those decisions, if so?
School consolidations are hard on our communities, and no one wants to see a school closed. However, I understand that there are a large amount of issues that are taken into consideration when having to make those difficult decisions. And one of the ways that we can continue to focus our efforts to making sure that these schools remain open for our community is work with the legislatures, with the legislators, and try to push for full funding of our public school system. We need to make sure that we have adequate funding for all campuses and that every student has an amount of funding that they need to be successful again in the classroom. So advocating outside of our district with other partners and learning how we can bring more revenue into our district is very important. So I'm hoping that we don't have to, but it's a real possibility, and it's unfortunate with the way that the legislation has been moving and some of the laws that have been passed and are impacting our district in a negative way. And not just our district, but all public school districts. So we want to ensure that they are making wise decisions and good decisions that keep the public school system at the forefront of their consideration and making sure that every child has the opportunity to thrive in the school.
Well, it's true which that. Public education is under attack. How should trustees support public education in fair compensation for school staff? And as you mentioned, going to Austin, how would you engage with those legislators in Austin to move that forward for NEISD in all school districts?
Over the past years, and prior to me joining PTA, I've always been very active in a variety of civic issues, including education. So I have gone to Austin and spoken with legislators across party lines to tell them how I feel personally about the importance of funding our public schools. When there were budget cuts, they were, I guess a few years back, they were looking at cutting special education. We could not afford that. Our kids need the services that they deserve or they're qualified to receive. So I don't have a problem with talking with the legislatures. However, going to Austin during session is what I feel is not enough. We need to have those conversations now in the off years so they're not in session, because they are currently at home in their districts, and we should be reaching out to them so that they can keep in the forefront of their mind what is important to us locally, what we elected them to do for for their constituency, for our community. So right now is the time, while they're thinking about what legislation they're going to introduce in the next session, now is the time to meet with them locally to have those discussions, not necessarily once session starts, even though that has great impact when they're at the Capitol, but we need to start talking to them now and letting them know what our priorities are for our district.
There are more options than ever available to families through TEPA's Texas Education Freedom Accounts and the growing number of charter schools that are popping up in our district. What strategies would you support to both retain students in our district and strengthen NEISD's ability to recruit new students?
with the shift in the downward turn in enrollments and the departure leading to charter schools, I think we as a school district do well with advertising and promoting our programs within our community of the people who are already in our schools. Sharing with them what opportunities they have, what's available for them, what choices parents have as far as magnet schools, different extracurricular, fine arts programs. But what we need to do is to, I believe, set a marketing campaign that reaches beyond our classrooms, that reaches beyond our school walls, that goes out to the community, that reaches the people who are in those other schools outside, whether it's parochial or charter schools. We need to do a better job of, and maybe not a better job is the word, but more to educate people who are maybe with younger children, with the preschool age, educating them on what we have to offer. And from what we have to offer, not only from kinder, but all the way through high school, because we have a lot of great magnet programs in the middle school and high school, including the CTEC that is hands-on learning for our high schoolers, where they can get certifications and walk out and go start their careers, who may not be ready to take that step to join a four-year university or junior college. So there are so many choices for our families, and I think we need to capitalize on spreading the word, because in my discussions with a lot of parents who are currently at charter schools, there is a shift, and they are starting to see some of the deficiencies when compared to public schools, and now they are coming back. So that ebb and flow is real, just like the way our neighborhoods, when neighborhoods are starting new construction outside of the county, people move out of the inner city, and now they're coming back in, and that is happening with our schools as well.
As we think about the whole child, we know students are navigating a wide range of academic, social, and mental health needs. And these needs are shaped by both the lasting effects of the pandemic and the broader challenges they face every day at school and also at home in those environments. How should NEISD continue to support students' academic, social, and mental health needs, especially as many continue to really face challenges post-pandemic?
I had this question asked of me a few nights ago. Is it the school district's responsibility to help children who are suffering from any sort of anxiety or mental illness, mental health issues? And I was absolutely yes. We need to treat them as the same as we treat any other student. And if there are needs that need to be met, we need to address those issues. Our students are facing a lot of difficulty. I don't think that our issues are exactly the same as what we face when we were, but they are very similar. The challenges that they face socially in dealing with the wide variety of personalities in their school. That's hard to manage, especially in middle school, when I'm learning with an 8th grader. That's hard to manage. But I believe that our counselors are very well equipped. Our school psychologists, they are very well equipped to assist our students. And they need to be able to provide services to our students when they come to them. And I believe that there's been some opt-in, opt-out type of service, selections for parents. And I think we need to give our school counselors the availability to talk with our students when it's needed. We can't put those issues, and some of those issues, on hold. And they may be very urgent issues that need to be addressed right there. So I think in order to keep other students safe on our campuses and our educators, we do need to address those issues that are facing all our students. There's a lot of things that can happen on our schools, as we've seen, and we want to make sure that everybody is afforded a safe learning environment.
The TEA released its most recent report yesterday. How do you feel about the district's current cell phone policy?
When there was discussion last summer about implementing a cell phone policy, I was approached by several administrators asking, what do you think this should look like? And they were doing a very good job with reaching out through different parents in the community, PTA. Can you go talk to your parents about what do they feel is needed? I think that the policy that Northeast created was very adequate and right on point with what we were hearing from parents. The legislation as written is something that they followed right along with. The parameters that they used to create the policy for our district were right in line with the legislation that was created. I feel they did what they should be doing when we start talking about parental input, parental rights. Parents spoke and they shared what they thought was important about this policy. We are in a time, yes, are we more dependent on our devices? Of course we are. We all are. But is there a need? There is definitely a sense of security by having that device. And knowing that we're able to reach our children in our schools. Now, do we want them to have it out there in class? No. And that's the way the policy is written, to where it is not during a class period, but it is during passing period and during their lunch. Some schools have adopted a zero tolerance from bell to bell, but that was their decision and the right that they had to make. But I think if the legislature's intent was not followed by our current policy, they need to go back in and recraft that legislation and state exactly what they mean. I had a teacher in high school that she always used to tell us, say what you mean and mean what you say. And that's what needs to be in this policy.
At the heart of every school community here at NEISD is the shared hope that every child and educator feels safe when they walk on campus, and they feel supported and cared for each day when they walk through those doors. What are your top priorities when it comes to school safety and security?
Our school district has been making strides to improve our safety on campuses and the security. With the campus resource officers, we have our CSS now on campus. However, there's still more to do. With the bond that was just passed, fortunately, there are a lot of issues in there that will be addressing what is lacking in some of our campuses, from the one-way screens that will be placed on the outward windows, from the extra secure locks and the doors that will prevent people from accessing a district, because we still do have campuses that, regardless of the initial front door, once you're in this door, you can still access the remainder of the school. So I'm glad that we are working to shore up those issues. I believe that those issues are ongoing, and this isn't just a one-time fix that we're going to be done, that these are issues that we're going to have to continue monitoring as the times change, as technology changes, as people with ill intent figure out how to go around those issues. So these are constantly going to be at the forefront, and our teachers, again, and our students, and everyone who walks the halls of our school should feel safe. I've witnessed parents dropping off their children in the morning, and it's when I've subbed at schools, and you can see the fear in their faces. And they shouldn't be afraid to go to school. They're praying over their children before they walk into the classroom, before they walk into the building. And they watch them all the way down the hall. If there's a door where they can run and see them walking down the hall, they are there watching them. And it shouldn't feel like that. But unfortunately, that is our time. And we are going to continue working to ensure that everyone, again, is safe in our classrooms and our buildings.
NEISD's dual language program is designed to develop bilingual, biliterate, and bicultural students by providing instruction in both English and Spanish, preparing them for success in an increasingly connected and diverse world. What's your perspective on NEISD's dual language program, and do you see it as a strong investment for our district?
I definitely do see it as a strong investment. As a parent with 2 students who went through the dual language program, I can see the change in them as far as their learning ability, the cultural exposure that they've received. Even though they're learning Spanish and we're Hispanic, mingling with people of different cultures within their classroom was a great opportunity for them to learn about how other people live in different countries. By exposing them to a second language, it's going to help them in the long run. Not just being able to speak, but like you said, they're biliterate. They're going to be able to read and write. With a lot of us who may have had Spanish as our first language or learned Spanish in high school and college, we may not be able to do that, but they are. My 8th grader is preparing for the AP test right now in the dual language program, and she's very excited about what she's accomplished. The growth is amazing. Now, as far as creating specific focused campuses for the dual language program, I do not know that that's going to be a benefit to our program or our schools as a whole. I think having the mixture on our campuses exposes everyone, again, to a wide variety of cultures, and I love seeing the interaction of the children. So I hope that this continues as a program in our district as a whole, but on individual campuses and maybe not as a dual language academy.
As more students with IEPs and 504 plans are learning in general education classrooms, it's important to ensure that both students and teachers are set up for success in those environments. What specific strategies or supports would you implement to support both educators and students in those settings?
The first thing that I think is important is hiring more paraprofessionals. With hiring more paraprofessionals, because they are the ones that work with our ALE and with these children's. But there needs to be discussion about their pay. Substitutes aren't paid very much either when it comes to these positions, to be a special education assistant. So I think that needs to be focused on to ensure that we have students that are being served and receiving the services that they are entitled to through their IEP and 504 plan. The inclusion of these students in a gen ed class through the ALE program is very important, and we can't do that if we don't have enough paraprofessionals and special education assistants to do that. So we need to look at ways to provide more funding for that area of teaching. Co-teach and coaches are very important across the campuses, and we need to look at making sure that those stay in place and that more are possibly hired to work with those classrooms. I am a substitute, and I specifically do special education assistant. So I firsthand have the knowledge of what the teachers need in the classroom, and I did that because I saw a shortage and a shortfall of the students that were not getting the services they need if they didn't have a para there to provide it. So that is why I chose to work with our special needs kids in ALE and through the different inclusion programs.
As the district works to make the most of limited resources, maintaining trust through clear and responsible financial practices is essential here. How would you ensure financial transparency and accountability, including oversight of vendor contracts, while prioritizing spending across the district?
Transparency is very important. Our district and our constituents in our district, they want to know what's happening in our schools. I think the district has done a good job with putting information, and most recently our bond that passed, about what that looks like financially. What are the projects that are going to be addressed? Now that the bond has passed, there are committees that are in place to ensure that the monies allotted for this bond are spent wisely, that the use of the tax dollar is used correctly, and that the vendors that they use, that the companies that they hire to execute the projects that are underneath this bond are done in a way that is most beneficial to our campuses and used, or beneficial use of our tax dollars as well. So I believe that these community groups that are committees that are formed are very important. And I know that they are made up of educators, administrators, of community members, parents in our district. So that is very important to keep that open to parents so that we can ensure that there is transparency and that people are able to speak to what is actually happening with the money of the district.
Standardized assessments like the STAR are a reality in Texas classrooms, but so is the need to make learning engaging, meaningful, and relevant to students. Teachers are working to meet accountability standards while also trying to spark curiosity and critical thinking. What is your stance on balancing standardized assessments like STAR with meaningful learning experiences?
Standardized testing has been around for years. However, you can tell that the shift in focus has changed over the last few decades with hyper-focusing on teaching to a test. The STAR was, supposed to be done away with. However, they've replaced it with 3 components that are just as high on the scale when it comes to rating our schools. So the stressors, the anxiety of this test have not gone away. So we've gone from 1 subset of the STARs to 3 throughout the year. Our teachers are more focused and have to be more focused because now they're worried about performance. I don't think our STAR test results should be tied or the only thing that's considered when looking at the success of a school or of a teacher. So we need to revisit the STAR and see how else, or the components of the new STAR. We need to really look at that to see how can we still look at assessment throughout the year, but without a focus in these stressors that these students face and the staff, because that does come through. If the teacher is stressed, then that translates to the students in the classroom. So we want to look at how more can we actually look at what the success of a campus is and what the positive success a teacher is producing in her classroom without these standardized testing.
Serving as a board trustee means working with others who may have different perspectives, all while staying focused on what's best for the students in NEISD. How will you handle disagreements with fellow trustees in your district leadership?
When you create a board, you quickly learn that there are a lot of personalities, a lot of experiences that come from that, from different individuals, from experience with the PTA boards, But everyone has certain talents, everyone has certain perspectives, and having those opinions and having access to those opinions is very important. They may not be something that I initially agree with, but maybe it's something that I didn't think about. Maybe it's a perspective that I didn't realize, like, hey, maybe we should look at that. Maybe we should consider or discuss this further. Help me understand your position. I am going to be one of 7. So it's important that we have those discussions and be open to other opinions, but we must always keep in mind what is best for our students and for our teachers and our staff. That is the main goal. If we keep the me out of what should be we, then we will be successful in moving forward to benefit our district across the board.
As our students and educators are already experiencing, AI and new technologies are quickly becoming part of everyday classroom experience, shaping how students learn and how teachers teach. What's the right approach for NEISD when it comes to using AI and new technologies in our classrooms?
As all technology, it's great till it's not, and it works well till it doesn't. I think AI is a great tool. However, it's going to have its appropriate time for usage in our classroom. Can it benefit our students as a whole? Yes, it could. However, it should not replace the way our students learn, the way our educators teach. It could be a component of that, but it should not be the main focus of our classrooms. So I think with the times, we have learned how to adapt and change and embrace some of the changes and figure out how can we best utilize this new technology. So I believe that continuing to look into it and learn how it will benefit us is very important. We can't just say, we're not going to use this. We're not even going to consider it. We should at least consider it and create focus on how it can be a benefit to us, because it is here to stay, but how can we implement it in our classrooms that will be beneficial again to everyone and parents, because even as parents, we are not all familiar with all of the technology, social media, things of that nature. So this has been helpful. I think we've gone from the dial-up era of internet to now we are the ChatGPT era of learning. But we need to learn how to use it responsibly, and that's going to be beneficial to everyone.
Volunteerism is crucial and central in public education, and very important to us here at the Northeast Council of PTAs. Can you share specific examples of how you've supported students and educators in public education, but particularly here in the NEISD?
Well, I started volunteering about 15 years ago when I became a stay-at-home mom, and I thought it would just be something short-lived, go make copies, let's help us teachers in the classroom, and then of course, like I stated, I got involved with PTAs. I learned that there was an advocacy component of PTAs, so I quickly learned how to get our families engaged, because I was seeing that there was a deficiency with parents helping in the schools, learning how to advocate for their own students. So that was a part that I really enjoyed doing, building those relationships and getting them more involved. Volunteering on our campus is something that everyone should do, and I was fortunate enough that we had a lot of grandparents volunteer and community members. They were like, we just want to come and help our school districts in whatever way we can. They didn't have children in the schools. They didn't have grandchildren in the schools, but they came up there to help out because they knew our schools were important. So that has been at the forefront of my mind, is what more can I do for my schools? After COVID, we saw a big shift when the students were returning to campuses, and there was a shortage of teachers returning to our campuses. They were either not, they might have retired, they might have left the profession, they could have been ill. There was a variety of reasons why there was a shortage. So I've always been one to be proactive and ask our campuses, what do we need to help you? What more do you need? What do you need from us to help? And at that time, the principal at our elementary school says, we need subs. So we talked to our PTA board, and I was like, hey, this is the next level. This is what we can do. Almost half of my board signed up to be a substitute teacher. And that's when I did as well. Because what more can we do is always the question we would ask. So with that story, I'm happy that 3 of those people who signed up to be substitute teachers found their passion and are now full-time teachers in our district. So that was a great initiative for us.
Thank you. Okay, that is going to conclude our questions for today. Why don't you go ahead and give us your closing statement?
I thank you very much to the council for allowing us here today to speak and share about our campaign. Throughout my career, whether it was a paid employee or a volunteer, I've been driven by the same purpose: to listen, to advocate, and to help others. I've had the opportunity firsthand to see, as a parent, a volunteer, and a substitute, the amazing programs that our district has to offer, from the dual language program to fine arts to our athletics program to C-Tech, all the variety of magnet schools that we have. There is so much choice in our district, and NEISD should be given every bit of consideration when making that decision for your child. It is a wonderful place, and when I moved here 21 years ago, I researched school districts, and NEISD was exactly where I wanted to be, and I knew this is where I wanted my children to learn. Being a voice for our students is very important. Being a voice for our educators and our staff is something that I've been doing for the last 15 years. It's not something that I just thought about and decided to do. So I want to continue that path with advocating for our students in our schools by becoming a trustee for our board. I'm excited about the opportunity to continue to serve our district in a different capacity. And that was part of the decision was, again, what's next? What more can I do for our district? And being a part of the board was what I wanted to do. It's not something that I take lightly. It is a very serious responsibility, but I look forward to the challenge in connecting with more families as a member of a whole district and not just my area. So I'm really excited about doing that, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you again here today. I would really appreciate your support and would be humbly appreciative of your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia, for coming today. Thank you for your very thoughtful answers. Thank you for your willingness to engage with us today. We really appreciate it. We appreciate your time. You know, the campaign's going to be very, very intense. I will now turn it back over to our Northeast Council President, Lee Henry.
Okay, thank you, Caprice, for being here, and thank you, audience, for attending. Caprice will stay after for a few minutes afterwards answering your questions that you may have. Early voting will begin on Monday, April 20th, and ends on Tuesday, April 28th. There is no early voting on Friday, April 24th, as is the Battle of the Flowers. And election day is Saturday, May 2nd. So PTA is a membership organization that advocates. We have PTAs on all 64 campuses in the district. To join PTA, you can go to joinpta.com to join one of our wonderful PTAs in the district. We hope you enjoy this forum, and we thank you for your support and advocacy on behalf of the 57,000 students in NEISD, and because the future of Texas is in our public schools. So thank you all for being here.